a great believer in conspiracy theories. I would always assume incompetence rather than conspiracy. But even unsuspicious old me is starting to wonder if the club maybe are starting to cover up a bit of an injury with regard to Niclas Füllkrug. I wouldn't blame them for doing it, by the way, because if it does turn out that we bought this striker and he's injured, I mean, that's just unfortunate, isn't it? But it doesn't look good. The worst thing, the worst case would be if we bought him knowing he was injury prone, which I don't think he is. I don't think there's been anything throughout his career to suggest that. This is not the same situation as we had with Andy Carroll. They're just not the same. So I find it difficult to believe that we've mucked up that badly. I just think we've been unlucky. That being said, even if we're unlucky, I wouldn't blame the club for sweeping it under the carpet a little bit because, let's be fair, they might have been unlucky this time, but the bad luck has followed on sort of years of whatever you want to call it, incompetence or, choosing the wrong striker. The stats are pretty damning. I sort of lost. I remember I sort of stopped counting the moment somebody presented me with a list of 50 strikers who in recent years had failed at West Ham. And I thought, oh, wow, okay, that's really quite something. So I'm not counting anymore. But the biggies are there, aren't they? I mean, even really good strikers like Chicharito, Javier Hernandez, who could score goals at Manchester United, at Real Madrid, at international level, comes to West Ham, gets shunted out onto the wing, right? It could be someone like Sebastian Haller. It could be Scamacca. Scamacca signs for West Ham, £35 million. We don't know where to play him, how to play him. Doesn't suit the system. Leaves. I know he's injured now, but leaves the next season for a £10 million loss. Starts banging goals in for Atalanta and in Europe. So we're not particularly good at it. Basically, the list is long and extensive. So, it brings me no pleasure to report mutiny in the ranks, in terms of how it's being reported that Füllkrug's injury is actually worse than we thought. Now, this is going to be nothing new. That's not new news on this channel. We've been discussing this for 2 weeks. So for 2 weeks, we've been pretty much saying, is it worse? There's been sort of rumors. There's been leaks. The reason it was interesting yesterday is the club very much came out and leaked the news that it was no longer an injury issue. I'm reading between the lines here. So I think the quote was something along the lines of, there is a slim chance that he will be available off the bench in a Tottenham game, but he's been out injured for so long, his fitness isn't up to scratch. Now, me putting that through Google Translate, to me, that means, well, hold on a second, he's not fit, he's been injured, but he's no longer injured. Now it's fitness. It's almost like he needs to do a pre-season again or something like that. That's how I read it, and I don't think that's an unreasonable take on it. Very much that was the case at the point where myself and Gio were recording our Tottenham preview. However, a little bit later on in the day, and this is yesterday basically, ex-West Ham United employee, I think it was on his Patreon, something like that, he said that it's worse. It's worse than we thought. Certainly indicated that Füllkrug could be out for weeks. So, as far as I was concerned earlier on in the day, he was on his way back, no injury, just fitness, might make it to the bench for the Tottenham game, if not, be on the bench for the Man United game. And X's update was very, very different to that, very different. And I thought, oh, wow, that's a worry. Now, I don't want to attribute stuff to him that necessarily hasn't come from him, because I don't know what the Patreon update was. So I might be mixing my information and we might have a bit of cross-contamination. But the suggestion was that people were saying that he was still in Germany, that Füllkrug was still in Germany, basically having a Maxwell Cornet, getting treatment over there, which would mean, well, I guess that he wouldn't be here for Saturday, right? Because you would anticipate if he was going to be, and it's the early kickoff, isn't it, on Saturday, I think, it was against Tottenham, that if he was going to be here and be a late fitness test and be possibly available to be on the bench, then he wouldn't still be in Germany receiving treatment, would he? I mean, even if he'd had his treatment and he was better, he'd be doing wouldn't be training with the group, but he'd be on the grass, as they say. He'd be on the grass. He'd be doing laps and stretches. And have you seen them in the training videos? They've all got elastic bands around them. They tie like an elastic band around their waist and then tie it to the fence. Tie it to the fence, and it's like those old cartoons. It's like Acme. It's like when Tom and Jerry. It's like when Jerry. Who's the mouse? Oh, of course, the mouse is Jerry. It's like when Jerry ties a bit of elastic to Tom, and Tom goes running off, and him boing, he bounces back. It's a bit like that, really. And so you'd expect to see him in the training. You'd expect him to be on the elastic bands on the grass, running up the hill. They've got a little fake hill in the West Ham training ground, haven't they? You wouldn't expect him still to be in Germany, even if he was fit. He still wouldn't be visiting his nan or anything, would he? He'd be back. So I think that's that was a slight worry. It might still be in Germany. And the whole thing about weeks, it could take him weeks to come back. Well, that's not good. That's really bad. Now, well, one of them's true. One of them's true. One of them's not. Or maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. I don't know. But it's yet more concerning news. Obviously, we hope the former is true. And because if not, and the truth is that he is not going to be available for weeks, and actually the club don't know. And it's no longer just a fitness issue. Actually, the injury is still there, which takes us back to a video we did a week ago, speculating whether he needed additional surgery. Then you've got a bit of a problem. And as I say, I can understand why the club wouldn't want to admit that. Because it's bad news, and sometimes bad news gets buried. But it's very, very hard in the public eye, isn't it? Let's be fair. If we all whatever, an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half before kickoff, or whenever it is that they release the team these days, and hour and a half before kickoff, we find out Danny Ings is starting up front, we're going to know. Then we look, we'll all do the same thing. We possibly won't even read the full team first. You'll jump straight to the bench. Look at the bench. There's no Füllkrug there then. It just starts to feed into it a little bit, really, doesn't it? And it's not a great look. It's not a great look for West Ham at the moment. And I think particularly when you factor in that. So I think most would concede that our first choice striker target during the summer was John Duran, which has been a bit embarrassing. Let's be fair; it's not just him scoring on the first game of the season at the London Stadium against us, having given it all of that, flashed his knickers at us, did that. I'm not saying he's got a pair of crossed hammers knickers. Imagine if he did. Anyway, or maybe not. Maybe don't imagine that. Most people would concede he was our top target. Maybe we were in for Ivan Toney. You might have a list in your mind of strikers that West Ham were going for. But definitely on the list was Samu Omorodion. Atletico Madrid striker. Went to Porto. Ripped it up. Scored 2 against Manchester United in the... I think they're in the Europa League, aren't they? 2 against them. I think since joining Porto, he scored 7 goals. He then plays the other night, but a Spain under-21s, scores 4 goals in a half, right? Now, here's my take on it. I think we were in for him. We were bidding for him, or we'd shown interest. Stuyton was interested. I think we pulled out of that race and decided to put all our eggs in one basket and go for Duran, because we thought we were going to get him. It's not just us, by the way. It's not just us. I think Duran thought he was coming to us as well. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done all that, right? All these people there's a lot of people saying, oh, there was never any deal. It was never on. There was never any way that West Ham were going to sign him. I just don't believe that. As I say, I think that's the conspiracy, and that's a difficult thing to believe. Actually, if you believe what you were told, which is West Ham were bidding and they were in dialogue with Aston Villa, and the player was so convinced that he was joining us that he thought a deal was imminent, he decided to do that. It's highly likely that everybody thought the deal was going to get done, and then it didn't, because West Ham just didn't do the final bid. Or maybe at the end, Aston Villa changed their mind and put the price up by 5 million. I don't know. But my point is, Omorodion, it feels like we ditched him. And at that point, he went to Porto, had a brief flirtation with Chelsea along the way. Don't know how that deal didn't get done, actually, because Conor Gallagher was meant to be going in the other direction. Anyway, whatever. I think it would now be fair to say that West Ham probably missed out on the best 2 young strikers in Europe, in Duran and Omorodion. I think one of them's 20. Is one of them 20, one of them's 19? I'm not far off. I haven't got it totally wrong. It's not like one of them's 18 and one of them's 50. I'm about right. That's bad. That's a bad look, right? And then when you factor in that West Ham have now looks like we might have well, we do have an injured striker. If it then turns out that he's going to be out for weeks, it looks even worse. The next couple of weeks are going to tell us quite a lot. But it's very, very... The thing is, here's the thing. You buy a young player and they get a little bit of let's call it an annoying injury. It's not like an ACL because he's got nothing like that. He's got no injury that would ordinarily keep you out for 9 months and you miss the season. But it may well turn out he misses 3 or 4 months of the season. That, if you're a young player, that's not a big deal. If you're 31 and a club have just paid whatever, 25, 27 million, whatever it is, that's a fair old portion of the time that you're going to be at the club. It's not great. It's not great. Listen, hopefully we're all... It's not about proving wrong. I'm not suggesting what's right and what's wrong, by the way. I don't know. Hopefully he appears on the bench. Hopefully we see something. But the longer he's not in that training ground footage that you see on the official club website, the more people are going to wonder about it.